Andrea is, I told you earlier, really nothing short of spectacular. Her little girl has uveitis and has had this problem for quite a long while. Her child has gone through many, many, many steps in care, starting with the drops, of course. And Andrea is the supreme example of someone who engaged completely. Come.
My part is the non-technical part of the day for everyone who's been sitting through the technical part. My daughter is 14 years old. She's not here today because it's her birthday. And she said, I spend so much time in Boston, I don't want to go again, so please let me sleep. So she's at home and I'm here speaking on her behalf. I was asked to speak here today because we all have a common thread in an uncommon disease. Some of you are the patients, while others of you are the parents, siblings, and grandparents of the patients. And still others of you are the clinicians treating the patients. We weave our way through life, and every once in a while we happen upon others who intersect us in some way. Common, of or relating to a community at large. Thread, a continuing element or filament twisted together. Our community that is twisted together is called uveitis. None of us, besides the clinicians in the room, really wanted to be here, but we ended up somehow in this thread. My daughter Mia was diagnosed with uveitis only 2 short years ago. I had never heard of this insidious disease prior to that, but now feel well versed in what uveitis is. I am not here to speak specifically about Mia, although I could speak about her and my other 2 children for hours on end. I was asked to speak about how this specific diagnosis has affected my family. In the beginning, I was just frightened. I'm sure all of you can feel that same thing. Frightened of the unknown. To combat that fear, I read everything there was to read about uveitis and its causes. Once I learned about that, I started to school myself about all the other diseases that Mia could have that would have caused this to happen. I am sure to his dismay, email Dr. Foster constantly, asking questions and sharing hypotheses. I am confident he wanted to tell me to go away, but he didn't. I was really a pain in the neck. I still am. Sometimes he would patiently reprimand me by saying we weren't fortune tellers and we couldn't predict the future. But I kept trying. I lost myself for a while in my research, staying up late into the night scouring journals and studies. Then one day I'd found out that my 14-year-old son, who was a freshman in high school at the time, was missing a handful of homework assignments in a class that he didn't care too much about. Shocked at myself for not knowing sooner, because I am completely a micromanager in this case, I asked him why he had gotten behind, and he simply said, "You have been so busy with Mia's disease, you never even asked me if I had done all the work." This was the first day that I realized I needed to stop. As a matter of fact, when Allison asked me to speak about how uveitis had affected my family, the first thing that came to mind was missing homework. But it was more than that. I was giving uveitis more power than I should have. My daughter actually said in the beginning uveitis was like a bully pushing her around. It was pushing me around too. After the homework incident, I decided not to be bullied any longer. My advice to those of you who are new to this disease is to inform yourself, because I strongly believe that knowledge is power. But once informed, compartmentalize it. Put it someplace where you are in charge of it, it's not in charge of you. Ask questions and get answers where they exist, but don't try to be a fortune teller. Speak to others who are going through the same things as you, if it helps. If it helps you get through it, but for me, raising awareness and money for a cure are what feed my strength to fight off the bully that is uveitis. For the clinicians out there who are dealing with our children, be aware that we are hanging on your every word, especially in the beginning of our journey with you. 3 days after my daughter was diagnosed with retinal vasculitis and pars planitis in one eye, symptoms appeared in her other eye. It was the afternoon of New Year's Eve. I phoned Mercy, and as always, the staff was quick to help. I was told to bring her in. The fellow on call that day looked at Mia's eyes and confirmed that she did in fact have inflammation in both eyes now. He then said, kindly, but quite matter-of-factly, Mia really should have an MRI to make sure she doesn't have MS, as this type of uveitis can be a symptom of that disease. I'm a pretty resilient person, but at that moment, uveitis was not the only bully in the room. I felt as though the fellow had put himself into that category and he didn't even realize it. I almost vomited while I left, trying to stay composed for my already frightened daughter. I work in the medical device industry and spent my entire ride home phoning all of the doctors that I knew to see how fast I could get an MRI done on my daughter. She spent the entire next week asking me every day if she had MS. You see, that fellow was only telling me the facts. He didn't even realize that his words threw my mind into a spin of sorts. He was only being diligent and doing his job. My lesson in that story is to all of the clinicians in the room. Deliver the facts, but be acutely aware of your delivery. Uveitis should be the only bully in the room. Remember, we are part of a common thread, and you are on our side. Uveitis has become a friend to us. We have learned to embrace it. It no longer pushes us around. My daughter would say we have learned to not be scared by it, and we've compartmentalized it. I cannot say enough about the staff at Mercy and OIUF. As a parent, you have helped me tremendously with this process, and I am happy to be here today standing before a group of individuals who are part of my common thread in an uncommon disease. It makes myself and my family feel less rare to see a large group of people part of our new community. Thank you.